The last sound you hear before falling asleep should never be your own name, whispered from an empty room. Story 1. It was a Tuesday, the kind of Tuesday that doesn't announce itself. No bad omens, no strange phone calls earlier in the day. Just rain. The slow, heavy kind that makes you want to curl up under a blanket and pretend the rest of the world doesn't exist. Her name was Megan, 24 years old. She lived alone in a small rented house on the outskirts of Madison, Wisconsin. Not the bad part of town, not the good part either. Just the quiet part where the streetlights flicker sometimes and the neighbors keep to themselves. She had moved there 3 months ago after a breakup. The kind of breakup that wasn't dramatic but still left a bruise. You know the type. Not angry, just tired. So she took the small house with the creaky floorboards and the bedroom window that faced the woods because it was cheap. And because that night she made pasta, watched 30 minutes of a show she wasn't really paying attention to, scrolled through her phone, checked the locks twice. Something she had started doing only after moving in alone. Then she brushed her teeth, put her hair in a loose bun, and climbed into bed at 11:47 p.m. The rain was getting louder. She set her phone on the nightstand, screen facing down, charger plugged in. Do not disturb mode turned on at midnight. Her last conscious thought before sleep was that she needed to buy more coffee tomorrow. At 3:03 a.m. her phone buzzed. Not a call, not an alarm, a single vibration. Short, almost polite. Megan stirred but didn't wake up completely. She rolled over, pulled the blanket higher, and buried her face in the pillow. The phone buzzed again. Then again, 3 buzzes in total. Then silence. She should have checked it. She knows that now. But at 3 a.m., your brain isn't your friend. It tells. At 6:17 a.m., her regular alarm went off. Grey light filtered through the curtains. The rain had stopped. Everything looked normal. Too normal. She reached for her phone. 14 text messages, all from one contact. Herself. The first message came in at 3:03 a.m. Don't look under the bed. Megan laughed when she read it. A nervous, she thought maybe she had sleep texted herself. Some people do that, right? Or maybe a glitch, or a prank. Her phone number was spoofed. Something technical, nothing real. Then she read the second message. 3:07 a.m. The third, 3:11 a.m. You are not alone in that room. Fourth, 3:14 a.m. There is someone under you right now. Fifth, 3:19 a.m. He's been there since Saturday. Megan stopped breathing. Saturday. Today was Wednesday. That meant 3 days. 3 full days of her eating breakfast, walking to the bathroom, changing clothes, sleeping. Someone had been underneath her. She didn't look under the bed, not yet. Instead, she called her best friend, Sarah. No answer. Called again. No answer. She typed a shaky text asking Sarah to call her now because something weird happened. While she was typing, the 14th message arrived. 6:24 a.m. The police arrived at 7:12 a.m. 2 officers, a man and a woman. They didn't look concerned at first. Another young woman, another creepy text message. They see this all the time. She could tell. Paranoid, anxious. Probably just a wrong number. They didn't come from a glitch. They came from her own device. But here is the thing Megan didn't understand until later. Text messages don't send themselves. Someone had to be holding her phone. Someone had to be pressing send. At 3:03 a.m. while Megan was asleep, someone had picked up her phone from the nightstand, unlocked it. How? She didn't know. Pressed send each time. Then put it back. Face down, the officers asked to check the crawl space. Megan's house had a small crawl space entrance in the hallway, a square wooden panel in the floor. maybe 2 feet by 2 feet. She had never opened it. The landlord said it was just for plumbing access. Nothing down there. Nobody ever goes down there. The male officer knelt down, shined his flashlight. He went quiet. That is the worst sound in the world, isn't it? Not a scream, not a gasp, just silence. The kind of silence that tells you something is very, very wrong before anyone says a word. The officer looked up at Megan and asked a question that still wakes her up at night. When did you last see your cat? She didn't have a cat. Megan had never owned a cat, didn't like them, allergic. The landlord knew this. There were no cat toys in the house, no food bowls, nothing. But down there in the crawl space, the officers found a pillow, fast food wrap, a small flashlight, and scratch marks on the underside of the floorboards, directly beneath Megan's. Someone had been living in that crawl space for 11 days, not 3. 11 they had entered through a loose vent on the outside of the house, crawled in, made a nest, and every single night after Megan fell asleep, they would slide open the panel in the hallway, walk through her house, eat her food, use her bathroom, stand over her bed, watch her sleep. And on the 3rd night, the police never found the intruder. By the time they searched the crawl space, it was empty. The blanket was still warm. The officer later told whoever had been down there had left less than an hour before Megan woke up. Probably through the same loose vent. Probably while she was reading those text messages in bed. They dusted for fingerprints, found all matching, but the prints weren't in any database. No criminal record, no matches, no name, no fake. They set up a camera outside her house for the next week. Nothing. No movement, no shadow. But here is the part that still bothers the lead detective. The scratch marks under Megan's bed weren't random. They weren't frantic or desperate. They were organized, patterned, almost like writing, almost like words. When the forensic team traced them, they found the same phrase carved into the wood, over and over, in uneven capital letters. I just wanted to be close. Megan moved out the next day, didn't pack, didn't call the landlord, just got in her car with a trash bag of clothes and drove 4 hours to her mother's house in Illinois. She stayed there for 2 months, slept with the lights on, jumped at every sound. She changed her phone number, got a new device, turned off red receipts, turned off location services, checked under her bed every single night before sleeping. Still does, even now, even in her mother's house, even in her mother's house, even in hotels, apartments. But here is what she didn't tell the police at first. The morning she found the messages, she did one thing she never admitted to anyone until months later. Right before the officers arrived, right after reading the 14th message, Megan looked under the bed. Just first, a small piece of paper that hadn't been there before. On it, written in pencil, "You have pretty hair when it is down." Second, a shadow, moving slowly, from underneath her bed toward the hallway, toward the crawl space panel. They never found him. The case is still open. Megan still gets texts sometimes from unknown numbers. Just one word each time. Always at 3:03 a.m. Close, and if you are listening to this alone tonight, maybe don't look under your bed. Just in case. Story 2. Sarah Jensen thought she had found the perfect. It was a cold November morning when she first saw the listing. 3 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms, a fireplace, hardwood floors, and the price almost too good to be true. In this economy, in this neighborhood, a rental for under $1,200 a month. She applied within hours. The landlord was an older man named Harold, 67 years old, retired. He smelled like cigarettes and coffee and didn't make eye contact when he handed her the keys. "You'll be fine," he said. Just don't go in the basement after midnight. Sarah didn't. A couch from Facebook Marketplace. A bed frame from IKEA that took 6 hours to assemble. The kind of moving day that leaves you exhausted but hopeful. By Sunday night, she was unpacked enough to sleep there. That was her first mistake. At 2:47 a.m., Sarah woke up cold. Not the kind of cold where you pull the blanket higher, the kind else, a draft. But all the windows were closed. The front door was locked. The thermostat read 68 degrees. She sat up in bed, listened. Silence. Too much silence. No cars outside. No wind. No hum from the refrigerator. Just nothing. The kind of silence that has weight. The kind that presses against your eardrums until you hear. Then she heard it. A knock. Not on the front door. Not on her bedroom door. From the floor, beneath her bed. Knock. 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 3 slow, deliberate taps. Sarah froze. Every muscle in her body locked into place. Her brain screamed at her to run. Her legs knock, knock, knock. The same rhythm. Patient, almost polite. She grabbed her phone, opened the flashlight, pointed it. Nothing. Just the hardwood, just the area rug, just the dust that hadn't been cleaned in years. She told herself it was the house settling. Old pipes, the foundation shifting. Something normal, something explainable. But she didn't sleep for the rest of the night. The next morning, Sarah called Harold. She asked if there was any chance the house had plumbing issues or foundation problem. Harold was quiet for a long time. Did you go in the basement? Number, I didn't. Good, don't. But I heard knocking. From under my bed, another long silence. What time? Like almost 3 a.m. Harold took a breath. The last tenant, he said slowly. She heard the same thing. She moved out after 3 weeks. Didn't even ask for her deposit back. Said she'd rather sleep in her car. What was she hearing? Same as you, knocking. But she also said she heard breathing from inside her walls. Sarah felt the blood drain from her face. Harold, what is in the basement? I don't know, he said, and I don't want to know. That is why I don't go down there. That is why I told you not to go down there. Some doors stay closed for a reason. He hung up. She should have packed her bags, called her brother, and slept on his couch. But she didn't, because the rent was cheap, because she was tired of moving, because she convinced herself that sounds don't hurt you. That night, she closed her bedroom door at 11 p.m., checked the lock 3 times, put a chair under the handle, pulled her bed away from the wall, so nothing could hide underneath. At 2:47 a.m., the knocking started again, but this time, it wasn't under the bed. It was inside the walls. Knock, 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 knock. Knock, a pattern, almost like Morse code, almost like someone trying to communicate. Sarah grabbed her phone and started recording. The video is still on her old device. You can hear the knocking clearly, 14 seconds of rhythmic tapping. Then something else, a voice. Low, muffled. She doesn't remember much after that. Just running. Just grabbing her keys and her purse and nothing else. Just driving to a 24-hour diner and sitting in a booth until sunrise, shaking, drinking coffee she couldn't taste. The next morning, she called the police. 2 officers met her at the house. They walked through every room, checked every closet, looked under every bed, except the basement. The basement door was locked from the outside, a heavy padlock. Harold's padlock. The officers asked if she had the key. She didn't. They asked Harold to come open it. He refused. You don't have a warrant, he said. That is my property. You are not going down there. The officers couldn't force him. No probable cause. No evidence of a crime. Just a woman who heard knocking and a voice. But one of the officers, a younger woman named Deputy Miller, stayed behind after her partner left. "Between you and me," she whispered, "there is a file on this house. 3 missing persons reports from the last 15 years. All tenants. All lived here alone. All vanished without a trace." Sarah felt her knees buckle. What were their names? Deputy Miller pulled out her phone, showed Sarah 3 photos, 3 faces. 3 people who had once stood in this same living room, who had once heard knocking from under their beds, who had once told themselves they were being paranoid. The last one had disappeared just 8 months ago. Her name was Emily, 26 years old. Brown hair, blue eyes. She looked exactly like Sarah. Sarah didn't wait for a warrant. That night she drove to a hardware store, bought a bolt cutter. The basement stairs were old, wooden, creaking with every step. The air got colder as she descended, thicker. It smelled like wet dirt and something else, something metallic, something she didn't want to recognize. She turned on her phone's flashlight. The basement was unfinished, concrete floor, a single bare bulb that didn't work, but there was something in the corner, something large, something covered with a blue tarp. Sarah walked toward it, slowly, 1 step at a time, her heart pounding so hard she could feel it in her throat. She pulled back the tarp, and then she ran. She ran faster than she had ever run in her life. Up the stairs, out the front door. She didn't stop driving until she was 3 towns away. She never went back. 3 days later, after Sarah filed a formal complaint, and a judge finally issued what they found made the local news for exactly 1 night before the story was buried. Under the blue tarp was a mattress, old, stained, surrounded by chains bolted into the concrete floor, and on the walls scratched into the stone were names, dozens of names, dates. The most recent one read, "Emily, day 47. They can hear me knocking. Why won't they let me out?" The one below it read, "Sarah, day 1. She sleeps right above me, so close I can hear her breathing." The handwriting matched the scratches under Sarah's bedroom floorboards. Because the basement wasn't just a basement. It was connected to a crawl space that ran under the entire house. A crawl space with access points under every bedroom, every closet, every bathroom. Someone had been living down there, not for days, not for weeks, for years. And when a new tenant moved in, they would watch, they would listen. They would knock from inside the walls, not to scare the tenant away, but to see who was brave enough to investigate, brave enough to become the next name on the wall. Harold was arrested 3 weeks later, not for the basement, for something else. They found photos in his house, photos of every tenant who ever lived at Shadow Lane, photos taken from inside their bedrooms while they slept. He said he was just checking on them. The judge didn't believe him. She still checks under her bed every night, still listens, still wakes up at 2:47 a.m. sometimes, soaked in cold sweat, certain she heard someone whisper her name. And the crawl space under Shadow Lane, they sealed it with concrete. But every few months, the new owners report hearing something from beneath the foundation, knocking, always at 2:47 a.m. Always from someone who wants to be let out. Story 3, Highway 50 in Nevada is called the loneliest road in America for a reason. For hundreds of miles there is nothing. No gas stations, no towns, no streetlights. Just desert, just darkness. Just the dotted white line stretching into infinity. David Chen knew this. He'd driven the route a dozen times. He was a traveling nurse, moving from Reno to a small clinic near a 6-hour drive, nothing unusual. It was 11:47 p.m. when he saw her, a woman standing on the shoulder, thumb out, wearing a white dress, No coat, no bag, no shoes. In 20-degree weather, David almost didn't stop. Hitchhikers are dangerous, everyone knows that. But she looked young, scared. Her arms were wrapped around her body like she was freezing. Her lips were blue. He pulled over. "Where are you going?" he asked through the passenger window. She turned to look at him. Her eyes were dark, too dark, the kind of dark that absorbs light instead of reflecting it. "Please, I've been out here for hours." David unlocked the door. She got in, buckled her seatbelt. Saturday perfectly still. David tried to make conversation. He asked her name. She said Lily. He asked where she was headed. She said just down the road. He said she already said that, but asked where exactly because he could take her to a town or a gas station or somewhere warm. Lily turned her head, slowly, too slowly, like her neck didn't want to move. "My mum's house," she said. "She lives on this road. You'll know it when you see it." David frowned. There were no houses on this stretch of highway, no driveways, no mailboxes, just barbed wire fences and empty fields. "How will I know it?" Lily smiled. The smile didn't reach her eyes. "You'll hear the music for the next 10 miles. The road was empty. The desert was black. David's headlights cut a narrow path through the darkness, faint at first, like a radio station losing signal, but growing louder with every mile. It was an old song, something from the 1950s. A woman singing in a language David didn't recognize. The melody was sweet, almost like a lullaby. But there was something wrong with it. Or like someone was humming along. Someone who didn't quite know the tune. "Do you hear that?" "We're close." David looked at his GPS. The screen showed nothing but grey. No roads, no landmarks, no data. Just a blinking blue dot in the nowhere. "It does that out here," Lily said. "Turn left at the next dirt road." There is no dirt road. There will be, 1 mile later, a dirt road. David had driven this highway 11 times before. He knew every turn, every rest stop, every cattle crossing. This road had never been there. But now it was wide, packed down, lined with old telephone poles that leaned at strange angles. And at the end of the road, maybe half a mile ahead, there was a house. Lights were on in every window. The music was louder now. The woman's voice echoed. David could almost understand the words. "Almost pull into the driveway," Lily said. David didn't want to. Every instinct told him to keep driving, to leave this woman on the side of the road, to forget this entire night. But his hands weren't listening to him. They turned the wheel, guided the car onto the dirt road, drove toward the house. The music grew louder until it was the only thing he could hear. The house was old, Victorian style, white paint peeling from the wood, a wrap-around porch with a swing that moved back and forth despite no wind. The front door was open. David parked the car, turned off the engine. The music stopped instantly. Silence. Complete, absolute silence. Lily got out of the car, walked toward the front door. She didn't look back, Lily. "Where are you going?" She stopped, turned her head. The same slow, unnatural motion. "You wanted to know where my mum lives. This is her house. Do you want to meet her?" David should have said no. The house was warm, too warm, like a furnace had been left on high for days. The air was thick, dry. It smelled like flowers and something else, something sweet and cloying and wrong. There were photographs on every wall, dozens of them, hundreds, all of the same woman, young. Younger in others, different hairstyles, different clothes. And in every single photo, she was standing next to a man. Different men, different faces, different cars. All of them looked terrified. "Do you recognize anyone?" Lily's voice came from... David spun around. Lily was standing in a doorway, smiling. "Those are my mother's friends," she said. "She collects them, they stay for a while. In the basement, she says they keep her company." David's blood ran cold. "Lily, what is in the basement?" Lily tilted her head. "The same too." But this time David heard something. A crack, like bones shifting. Lily's smile grew wider. "Would you like to meet her?" David ran. He doesn't remember running to the car, doesn't remember starting the engine, doesn't remember speeding down the dirt road, the house shrinking in his rearview mirror, but he remembers looking back. Lily was standing in the middle of the road, watching him leave, smiling. And behind her, in the doorway of the house, stood another woman. Older, darker eyes, holding a glass jar. David drove 300 miles without stopping. He didn't report what he saw, didn't tell the police, didn't tell anyone. But 6 months later he saw a news article. Remains of 14 missing men found in basement of abandoned Nevada home. The article included a photo of the house. The same white Victorian, the same wrap around port, the same swings, and a quote from the lead investigator. "We found a jar with over 200 human teeth and a guest book. Every visitor signed it. Most of them wrote things like 'nice stay' or 'friendly host.' But the last entry was different. It said, 'David, next time stay for dinner.'" David moved across the country after that. Changed his name. Never drove at night again. But sometimes when he is driving home from work in broad daylight, he hears music faint. Older woman singing in a language he can't understand. And when he looks in his rearview mirror, just for a second, he swears he sees a woman in a white dress sitting in his back seat, smiling, waiting for him to take her home. Story 4. Rachel moved to Chicago for grad school. She found a studio apartment in Wicker Park. 5th floor. Big windows. Good light. The rent was reasonable because the building was old. Built in 1923, and the elevator only worked sometimes. But Rachel didn't mind. The creaky floors, the steam radiators, the fire escape outside her window that led down to an alley. That fire escape would become her nightmare. The first week was fine. Unpacking, organizing, learning the neighborhood. Rachel decorated her apartment with fairy lights and thrift and a big rug that covered most of the floor. She felt safe. On the 8th night, she woke up thirsty. It was 3:22 a.m. The city was quiet. The street below was empty. Rachel walked to the kitchen, poured a glass of water, and glanced out the window on the fire escape. A face. It was a man middle-aged, wearing a dark hoodie. His face was pressed against the glass, nose flattened. He wasn't moving. Rachel screamed. Dropped the glass. It shattered on the floor. The man didn't flinch. He just stared, breathing fog onto the window pane, writing something with his finger in the condensation. "Let me in." Rachel grabbed her phone. Called 911. The operator told her to lock herself in the bathroom, and she ran, slammed the bathroom door. Saturday in the dark bathtub, shaking until she heard knocking. Chicago PD open up. The police searched the fire escape, the alley, the roof. Nothing. No one. The man was gone. He probably ran when he heard the sirens. One off. Just a vagrant looking for a place to sleep. Get better locks. Rachel got better locks, but she couldn't stop looking at the window. The next night, Rachel didn't sleep. She sat on her couch, facing the window, a kitchen knife in her hand. The fairy lights were off. The apartment was dark. At 3:22 a.m., she saw movement. The same face, the same man, pressed against the glass. But this time, he wasn't staring blankly. He was smiling, and he wasn't alone. Behind him, on the fire escape, stood 3 other figures, dressed in dark clothes, hoods up, faces hidden. One of them held a crowbar. Rachel didn't call 911 this time. She ran to her front door, opened it, ran down 5 flights of stairs. The fire escape was empty. No one was there. Rachel told the landlord the next morning. An elderly man named Mr. Henderson. He listened quietly, nodded, then sighed. "You are the 3rd tenant to report this," he said. "The 3rd didn't even finish their leases. Did you call the police?" Police searched the building. Every floor, every fire escape, every apartment. They found nothing. No fingerprints. Nothing. Henderson paused. But they found something in the basement. An old maintenance room. Been locked for... And inside, he stopped talking. "Inside what?" Rachel asked. Henderson shook his head. "You should move." Rachel didn't move. Instead, she went to the library. She searched newspaper archives for the building's address. Found 3 articles. The first was from 1987. A woman vanished from her 5th floor apartment. Her door was locked from the inside. The fire escape window was open. She was never found. The second was from 1995. A man reported seeing faces on his fire escape. Police found nothing. 2 weeks later, he disappeared. Same apartment, same floor. The third was from 2003. The same story, the same window, the same faces, and in every article, the same detail was mentioned. The tenant reported hearing scratching, soft scratching like fingernails on drywall. Rachel felt. She went home, locked every lock, checked every window, and then she pressed her ear against the wall, scratching. Faint, rhythmic. Coming from inside the wall, Rachel called the police again. This time she demanded they open the walls. It took 3 days and a court order. When the maintenance crew cut open the drywall behind Rachel's bed, they found something that made even the foreman step back. A crawl space, hidden between the walls of the 5th floor and the roof, narrow. Dark, but big enough for a person to move. And in that crawl space, they found blankets, a journal, photographs of every tenant who had lived in that apartment for the last 40 years. The journal was written by someone who had been living in the walls for decades, moving from building to building. Never seen, never caught. The last entry read, "Rachel, she doesn't know I watch her sleep. Tonight, I'll bring my friends. Tomorrow, she'll join the others. The police never found the man." But they found evidence that he had been inside Rachel's apartment at least 7 times, and he had taken something from her every time. A hairbrush, a pair of socks, a photograph from her wallet, her phone charger. He had been collecting her. Slowly, patiently, waiting for the right night. Rachel moved that week. She lives in a new city now, a ground floor apartment with bars on the windows and... But sometimes, when she is falling asleep, she hears scratching, soft, rhythmic, coming from inside her new walls. And she wonders if he followed her, or if he was never alone, or if there are hundreds of them, thousands, living in the spaces between walls, watching, waiting for you to fall asleep so they can finally come out. Story 5. Emily was 17 years old, a high school senior saving money for college. The babysitting job seemed easy. 2 kids, a boy and a girl, 7 and 5. Nice house in a quiet suburban neighborhood. The parents, Mr. and Mrs. Thompson, seemed normal, friendly, a little anxious about leaving for the night, but isn't every parent? "You'll be fine," Mrs. Thompson said, putting on her coat. "The kids are asleep. They won't wake up. Just sit on the couch and watch." "What about the clown?" Emily asked, pointing to a life-sized porcelain clown statue in the corner of the living room. It was creepy. Big red smile, wide blue eyes, holding a bouquet of silk flowers. Mrs. Thompson laughed. "Oh, ignore that," she said. "It was my grandmother's. It is creepy, I know. But it is worth a lot of money. Just don't touch it," Mr. Thompson added. "And whatever you do, don't let the kids near it. They're terrified of it." Emily nodded. The parents left. She locked the door and settled onto the couch. The clown watched her from the corner. The first hour was fine. Emily watched television, ate some chips, texted her friends, but she couldn't stop looking at the clown. They seemed to follow her. Every time she moved, the painted blue irises tracked her across the room. She told herself it was just the lighting, just her imagination. Then she heard a soft thump from the kids' bedroom. Emily walked upstairs, checked on them. Both were asleep. She closed the door and went back downstairs. The clown had moved. It was now facing the stairs, directly facing them. She was sure it had been facing the window before. She was sure. Emily texted Mrs. Thompson. She asked if she had moved the clown before she left. Mrs. Thompson replied no, and asked, "Why?" Emily said it was facing a different direction. Mrs. Thompson said that was impossible because it was bolted to the floor. Emily looked down. The clown's base was bolted, screws into the hardwood. But Mrs. Thompson texted again and asked for a picture. Emily took a photo, sent it. 3 minutes passed, then 5. Then Mrs. Thompson called. Her voice was different. "Emily, get the kids. Get out of the house. Now." "Why? What is wrong?" "The clown in that picture. That is not our clown. Our clown has pink flowers. The one in your photo has yellow flowers. Someone swapped it." Emily felt her heart stop. "Emily, are you there, Emily? Get out." Both were crying, confused. She carried the girl and pulled the boy by the hand. They reached the top of the stairs. The clown was at the bottom, blocking the front door. Its painted smile seemed wider now. Its eyes seemed darker, and in its hand, not the bouquet anymore, a kitchen knife. Emily backed up, ran to the kids' bedroom. The operator said to stay on the line because police were on their way. Emily heard footsteps on the stairs, slow, heavy, each step creaking, then scratching at the bedroom door. Scratch, scratch, scratch. A voice, low, male, not a clown voice, a real voice. "I just want to play." The police arrived 7 minutes later. They found Emily hiding in the closet with both kids. Deep gouges in the wood, but the clown was gone. The front door was still locked. The windows were still closed. No one had entered or left. The police searched the entire house. Basement, attic, backyard. They found a hidden door in the basement, behind a bookshelf, leading to a crawl space that connected to every room in the house. And inside, a camera pointed at the living room. Photos of every babysitter who had worked for the Thompsons in the last 5 years, and a clown costume. The real clown statue was found in the backyard, buried under a tarp. Its face had been smashed. Simone had been living in the Thompsons' crawl space for months, watching, waiting, and every time the parents left for a date night, that someone would put on the costume, stand in the corner, and wait for the babysitter to notice. Mrs. Thompson broke down when the police told her. "We've had 10 babysitters this year," she sobbed. "They all quit. We thought they were just scared of nothing." They weren't scared of nothing. They were scared of something. They never caught him. The crawl space was empty by the time police arrived. He had vanished into the neighborhood, into someone else's basement, someone else's walls. The Thompsons sold the house. The new owners reported nothing unusual. But last year, a woman in the same neighborhood called 911. She said there was a clown statue in her living room that hadn't been. When police arrived, the statue was gone, but her front door was unlocked, and her bedroom window was open, and on her nightstand there was a single yellow flower, the same kind the clown had been holding in Emily's photo. Story 6. Jake's best friend died 3 years ago. Car accident, black ice, Highway 17. Instant, no suffering, no last words, just a phone call at 2 a.m. from a state trooper with a heavy voice. Jake went to the funeral, cried, drank too much, went to therapy, moved on, or tried to. Couldn't delete it. It felt like deleting proof that Derek had existed. On a random Tuesday afternoon, Jake's phone buzzed. Jake stared at the screen. His hands started shaking. He pressed play. Static, then a voice, muffled, distant, but unmistakable. Jake, it is me. I don't have much time. Don't drive on Highway 17 tonight. Just don't. I am sorry. I am sorry. I should have listened. The voicemail ended. And again. The timestamp showed the message was left at 2:17 a.m. that morning, while Jake was asleep, from a phone number that had been disconnected for 3 years. Jake called Derek's number. It rang. Once, twice, 3 times. Not Derek's voice. Older, raspier? Jake asked. You know who this is? Number? I don't. This was my friend's number. He is dead. A long pause. Then a laugh. Dead? Is that what they told you? Jake's blood went. What are you talking about? Derek isn't dead, Jake. He's been here the whole time. We've been waiting for you to call. Where is here? Another laugh. The basement of the house on Highway 17. The one you drove past 100 times. The one with the red door. He's been down here for 3 years. We've been sending you voicemails for 3 years. You are the first one to call back. Jake hung up. Then he called the police. The police knew the house. It had been the subject of dozens of complaints over the years. Strange noises, foul smells, reports of screaming in the night. But every time they searched, the house was empty, abandoned. No furniture, no people, nothing. This time, they brought a search dog. The dog led them to the basement, to a wall that seemed thicker than it should be, to a hidden door behind a bookshelf. Behind the door was a room, 8 feet by 8 feet, concrete floor. No windows, a single light bulb. He was thin, gaunt. His hair was long and matted. His beard reached his chest. He hadn't seen sunlight in years, but when he looked up, Jake would have recognized him anywhere. It was Derek. Derek hadn't died in a car accident. He had been kidnapped, pulled over on Highway 17 by a man pretending to be a cop, drugged, dragged into the basement, chained to the wall. For 3 years, the man who took him, a former military medic named Raymond Cross, had been doing this for decades. He had a system. He would wait for solo drivers on remote highways, pull them over, take them to the house on Highway 17, and then he would use their phones to leave voicemails, to make them think their family members were still alive, to make them hope. And then, when the hope was strongest, he would send one final message. He's not coming home. He is mine now. Cross had done this to 17 families, 17 missing persons, 17 open cases, 17 voicemails that families played over and over, trying to find clues, trying to hear their loved ones' voices. The police found them, 17 men and women. Some had been there for 20 years, some for only months. Derek was the only one still alive. Derek spent 6 months in the hospital, learning to walk again, learning to talk again, learning to be human again. He still wakes up screaming some nights, still hears the sound of chains dragging. still feels the cold of that basement in his bones. But he is alive, and every year on the anniversary of his disappearance he calls Jake. Not to talk, just to leave a voicemail. 3 words: I am still here. If you are listening to this alone tonight, if you're in your car or in your bedroom or walking down a dark street, remember this: the scariest stories aren't about ghosts. They're the ones who hide in crawl spaces, the ones who live in your walls, the ones who watch you sleep through your own bedroom window, the ones who are already inside. Thank you for listening. Sleep well if you can.